With me now is former press secretary from the Trump administration. He currently hosts a great show on Newsmax. I'm a guest on your show quite often, as you know. A man who needs no introduction, Sean Spicer. Sean, good to see you.
Great to see you, Liz. Thanks for having me. It's nice to have the tables flipped a little, if you will.
I know exactly. Now I'm going to be the one that asks you the hard questions, and we'll see how you do. Congratulations, by the way, on your new book, Radical Nation. I, for one, think that the topic of your book is spot on. I mean, this is something we need to be talking about. The premise of your book, of course, is that the Biden administration is very radical, especially given who they've surrounded themselves with. So talk to me a little bit about the concept of this book and why you feel it's important for not only Republicans, but people who may be in the middle to understand just how far left the people Biden surrounds himself with are.
Well, I think the way you just ended that statement is exactly why I wrote the book, which is Joe Biden presented himself on the campaign trail as this pragmatic moderate that was a deal maker that wanted to unify the country, and that he would surround himself with people of the same ilk. That's not the case. And I think the two things that I think I lay out in the book very succinctly are the people who surround Joe Biden. Both, one of the chapters called Biden Inc. are the people like the Hunter Bidens, the Frank Bidens, the people in his family that have surrounded him for the past half century, that have made a lot of money, that have put a lot of deals. But then secondly, the people in the administration, both confirmed and unconfirmed, that I don't think people fully appreciate because they didn't get a lot of attention either when they were appointed or going through the confirmation process. And in my opinion, almost all of them are unqualified for the jobs they have. But then secondly, it's the policies that they're pursuing and the goals that they're trying to achieve, which is what should worry everybody. People have to understand that all of the things that they're putting out there have a nice bumper sticker on them, but they are all in pursuit of greater political power. There's a reason they talk about voting reform. It's not voting reform, it's a federal takeover. There's a reason that they want to make DC a state. There's a reason they're letting people flow over the southern border. There's a reason that they want to pack the court. They're all tied together, and it's in pursuit of permanent political power. And if you don't take a look and pull back the curtain and understand that, then I think each one in isolation may not look as bad as it really is.
So talk to me about this reason that you're discussing. There's a reason that they do X, Y, and Z. There's a reason they want DC to be a state. There's a reason they want an open borders at our southern border, because this is something that you probably experience this as well, but I experience a lot when I'm talking one-on-one with people off the air. A lot of people going about their everyday lives, even if they vote conservative or they vote Republican, they're part of the conservative movement. Sometimes it's very hard to believe that the things that the radical left are doing are actually happening. And the example that I'm using here, it's not just hypothetical. In schools, for example, a lot of parents have a hard time believing that critical race theory and Marxism or radical sex ed are being taught to their child. They somehow believe that that classroom, that teacher, that school district, that school building is exempt, that it runs okay. There's not toxic ideology being taught in that school. How do you convince the American people, or how do you expose the truth to the American people so that people understand that, no, this isn't happening in some far-flung area that doesn't involve you, that this is happening right in your backyard, to your children, to your life, to your pocketbook, to your economy?
Three things. First, with respect to critical race theory and other things, you're absolutely right. The Democrats and everyone will tell you it doesn't exist. That's not what's happening. There's two chapters in the book about the media, 16 and 17. And part of what you're getting at is that you don't get it, you get told it doesn't exist, that it's a joke, that it's a made up thing by the right. So I give very clear examples. I go through the origins of critical race theory. I give examples in school districts of what's happening. You can't make this up. You can't say it doesn't exist, but in this particular school district in Virginia, or this one in California or Kansas, here's exactly what happened, which is exactly it. So either it's happening or it's not. But if you can list concrete examples, then it's pretty hard to say that it's not happening and it doesn't exist. So one, I think we lay out the origins of critical race theory, of what's happening, and examples of it. Two, understanding that the media telling you it doesn't exist doesn't make it true. So much of what's happening right now is omission. It's the media not covering stuff. It's the media not telling you about the hypocrisy, the double standards, and the failures of the policies of this administration. If you just get up, you're like a lot of Americans, you watch the Today Show, Good Morning America, you flip on either the New York Times website or the Washington Post or whatever, you don't see half the stuff that's going on if you're not listening to your podcast, you're not watching my show on Newsmax, you're hearing things. Merrick Garland was testifying the other day, he asked about this stuff that's going on in Loudoun County, Virginia, and said, I'm unfamiliar with it. Unfamiliar? It literally was all over the web. We were covering it on Newsmax, other stations on the conservative side were covering. The idea that the Attorney General could feign ignorance shows you everything that you need to know. But then third, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. That's how you started your question. This is kind of my favorite one of the book that my friends think I'm obsessed with. The Democrats will tell you that we need to have voting rights for people who live in the District of Columbia. They're American citizens. They don't have the right to vote. And I sit back and say, wow, I'm an American. I love the right to vote. I'm sure Liz Wheeler loves the right to vote. So we would go, gosh, it's a shame. We should give the people of the District of Columbia a right to vote. They're Americans. And that's what Democrats tell you. So that's why, in their opinion, we need to make D.C. a state. So in the book, I said, well, let's look at this a little bit more. In 1790, the framers took part of Virginia and part of Maryland and created a 10 square mile district as the Constitution lays out. And they said that's the District of Columbia. It will not be in any state. We don't want a state to control the seat of government. Okay, that makes sense. Well, in 1825, they said, we're not using the part that Virginia gave us, so we're going to give it back to Virginia. Here you go, Virginia. You are now back as being Virginia residents. You can live and breathe in that state and vote. Wow, that makes sense. So wouldn't it seem to you and to me that if you didn't need the part that was taken from Maryland and you just wanted to keep a federal district from the Capitol to the White House, you carve that out where nobody lives, give the rest back to Maryland where it came from, where there is precedent for giving it back, and problem solved. Now you vote, you're a citizen of Maryland as you used to be, as your forefathers were, and the problem solved, right? Well, no. Why not? The Democrats say we need to create a new state of a few 100,000 people. Why? Because the people who live in that district right now vote 95-5 for Democrats. So if you create a state, what do you get? Oh, you get 2 permanent Democratic senators for life. That means that it becomes much harder for Republicans to ever take back, never mind hold a supermajority in the Senate again. The Democrats get this. They sell you on a cute bumper sticker idea of voting rights. Everybody says that makes sense. And the next thing you know, you're bought in on creating the 51st state and saying, wait, doesn't it make a lot more sense just to give back to Maryland, which was once Maryland's, as we did with Virginia? They don't want to have that conversation because it's not about voting rights. It's about power.
No, and by the way, your friends who criticize you for this being your favorite part of the book, they must not be as nerdy as I am, because I think this is great. I think this is something that I think that I've talked about this before. You and I have actually talked about this before. It's something that American school children should be taught, why the District of Columbia is actually not a state and intended not to be a state, and how the Democrats betray their own hypocrisy, betray their own agenda, by not wanting, a simple solution for the reason that they at least claim they want that to be a state. So I really appreciate books too that are full of information like this. Give us some more examples. This is fascinating.
But the problem is, what I want Republicans to do is to not get on the back end of this argument, not wait till Democrats force this down their throats. They should get ahead of it. Say, you know what? We agree with you. We want there to be voting rights. That's why we are forcing you to go back to Maryland from which you came. Instead, all these Republicans on Capitol Hill, when I bring it up with them, go, we don't want to touch it. Guess what? At some point, mark my word, put this down in podcast history. If Republicans don't get in front of this, they will lose, and the DC will become a state. They are getting behind this argument, and that's a shame. I mean, as far as other stuff in the book, I mean, there's a bunch of policy stuff, but I also go through Biden Inc. And it's amazing. Everybody knows the Hunter Biden story about Burisma. But I go back and document what happened right after he graduated from college and suddenly becomes a vice president at MBNA, one of the largest credit card holders. It happens to be based in Delaware, when his father was a senator on the banking committee. So as long as his father was in a position of power, his son was getting a nice, healthy check from one of the largest credit card companies based in Delaware. And you start to see not just Hunter, but his brother Frank and all these other relatives do very, very well once Joe is elected to the Senate and keeps progressing up the ranks of leadership there. It's amazing because you go back and you start to see this isn't just a new phenomenon. This has been going on for decades.
It is, and the Democrats have known about this and simply don't care about it when the corruption is on their side. Sean, where can people find your book? Because I know if everybody is like me, and the people on the Liz Wheeler Show community on Locals certainly are interested in the same things that I'm interested in. We all are interested in this. Where can we get your book?
The easiest thing is go to newsmax.com/23. It'll take you right to where you can order it. Obviously, we're in almost, I think, every Costco in America right now. There's over 600 of them that are carrying the book. Barnes & Noble, you can go to Amazon, wherever books are sold. Go get it right now. It makes a great Christmas gift. And one of the things that I'll say for anyone who's listening to the Liz Wheeler show, if you buy the book and you say, hey, I really wanted to give it to a gift, I know somebody who would appreciate this. If you go to my website, SeanSpicer.com, there's a pull down and there's an email, contact@SeanSpicer. If you email us with a verified purchase from anywhere, Barnes & Noble, you just send us a copy of the book. I really don't care where you buy it. If you send it to us, I'll send you a signed book plate at our expense so that you can actually personalize it for somebody for the upcoming holidays if you want. Because I know sometimes people buy books as gifts, especially if you've got a political junkie, or if you just have a crazy aunt or uncle that you think needs to have some common sense kick.
Well, that's an extremely nice offer. I mean, you might want to look out on that email form. I might be taking you up on that here soon. Sean, thank you so much for joining today. It was great to talk to you. And it really was fun to be on opposite ends of this. So we'll have to do it again.
I love it. Thanks for having me on, Liz. I really appreciate the opportunity and look forward to having you back on Spicer & Company.
If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below, and ring the bell to make sure you never miss a video.